will go under some bridges and past some trees as well. So when we go under bridges, don't try and touch the bridge. Don't try and grab a tree branch. Leave everything outside of the bus, outside of the bus. Once again, this is for safety reasons. I can't let you lose an arm or something outside the bus. So due to construction, some of our stops are not available today. And the stops that we cannot get to because there's construction there, we can't get there, are stops 2, 6, 12, 13, and 15. I'm going to say that one more time. The stops that we cannot get to today are stops 2, 6, 12. The back aren't working super well, so I'm going to stand by the back staircase. Just let me know. So these speakers are not working too well. I'm going to stand here. So I'm just letting you know. Okay. So hello. I'm just going to stand here and give a tour so you can probably hear me a little bit better. On our left, this beige building is the Chelsea Hotel. The Chelsea Hotel is the largest hotel in Canada with 1,590 rooms. It also has downtown Toronto's only water slide. You'll see the water slide on the left between these two buildings. On our left now. At the top of the aura lights up at night. So lights come from the top of the aura down in straight white lines like icicles or tears. Because of the curve of the building, if you stand far enough away, it's meant to look like the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, which is why it is called the aura. So watch out on the right for some of these tree branches. Some of them swing down a little bit low when we drive past. And then on our left we have College Park. College Park was built by the Eaton family. You might recognize that name from the Eaton Center. We were just right next to it when we began our tour. And College Park was originally supposed to be 38 stories tall, but when it finished it only had 7, and that's because it was built during the Depression. So no one had the money to go to malls or department stores, so they didn't want to build a 38-story tall mall department store. In front of us on the left, past McDonald's, we have a construction site that we will drive past. Behind that white plastic is a clock tower. That clock tower is all that remains of Fire Hall number 3. The fire hall unfortunately caught fire and burnt down, leaving only the clock tower and one wall. In the 50s, it was turned into a Chinese restaurant, and then from the 60s to the 70s, it was the St. Charles Tavern. Now that clock tower is being added to the residence that they're building around it. The reason that it's covered in plastic right now and we can't see it is because the clock tower is protected by the Ontario Heritage Act. So the Ontario Heritage Act protects older buildings in the city from being changed or destroyed on the outside, but the inside can be completely renovated. Yeah, condos. I do not know. So, this street that we're on right now is Yonge Street. Yonge Street separates the east and west sides of the city. Many streets that go through Yonge, but the west side themselves. Yonge Street is also famous. It's famous because it's very long. If you were to drive up all of Yonge Street, it would take you about 6 days. Our next stop is stop 4. Stop 4 is our Yonge and Isabella stop. Would anyone like to get on stop 4? Please let me know. Give me a little wave. Anyone for 4? No, so no one up here wants to get up for 4. If you take a look in front of us on the right, you'll see this big, tall, white skyscraper. This is Canada's second tallest condominium. It is 76 stories tall. Next. And then across the street from that condominium, there is on the left, in front of us on the left, way in front of us on the left, there is a construction site where they're building another condo. That one is planned to be 85 stories tall. Act is another example of the Ontario Heritage Act at work. So on the outside of the building, above the main entrances, in stone, it still says Postal Station F, but on the inside of the building, it's been completely renovated, and there are new businesses. One of those is a McDonald's. So when we drive past, you can take a look to the right and see Postal Station F, 85-story tall condominium there. As we drive forward, you'll want to take a look to the sidewalk. The sidewalk turns from the normal concrete color into this black stone. You can see it best on the right, but on the left, you will see it at the intersection. This black stone is Mongolian granite. It is letting us know that we are entering the Mink Mile. The Mink Mile is Canada's most expensive shopping strip, or it is the world's 7th most expensive shopping strip. When we go through the intersection, if you take a look to your left or your right, you'll see more of the Mink Mile. Anywhere you see the Mongolian granite is part of the mile. Our next stop is stop 5. That is our stop for Yorkville. If anyone wants to get off at stop 5, please let me know. Please raise your hand. Anyone for stop 5, Yorkville? No, so no one up here wants to get off at 5. On the right, we have the Toronto Reference Library. Toronto Reference Library is one of the 3 largest libraries in the city. It's also where we have about 3 million articles. This library has never lost a book, and that is because you're not allowed to borrow books from this library. They are just for reference. They keep them inside. This library also has a map collection dating back to the 1700s. Returning on to Yorkville, Yorkville today is a street, but it was at one point its own city, its own municipality. It had its own mayor, its own town hall, and everything. The town hall of Yorkville used to be on our right where you see these trees, but now it's Town Hall Square, and that's because unfortunately the town hall of Yorkville caught fire and burnt down. It's very interesting that the town hall burned down because 2 doors down from it was, and still is, in front of us on the right, this fire station. This is the oldest active fire station in the city. Hello. People do live here. It is rumored that Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Wahlberg, and Drake's mother all have residences in the 4 Seasons. On our left, we're driving past Pussy Terrace. Pussy Terrace is the only place in the GTA, or the Greater Toronto Area, where you can get a coffee called Kopi Luwak. This coffee is made by feeding the coffee beans to a civet, a cat. The cat will eat the coffee beans, digest them, spit them out. They roast those coffee beans, and they sell them for $600 a pound. Okay. Apparently the enzymes in the cat's stomach take some of the bitterness out of the coffee beans, which is why they do that. Coming up in front of us on the right, we're going to drive past a yellow brick building. It says Chanel. It is our Chanel flagship store, but it was the original location for Mount Sinai Hospital. Mount Sinai was started here on the right by 4 Jewish women. They came to Toronto, they collected donations from Torontonians, and they used that money to start their hospital and buy that location on the right. Mount Sinai is currently in our medical district, our health district, where we have our hospital alley. Now we're heading away from Yorkville. Goodbye, Yorkville. And on the left, we can see the back end of the Mink Mile. You'll see more of this Mongolian granite as the sidewalk, if you didn't get a chance to see it before. In front of us on the left, we have this church. This is the Church of the Redeemer. The Church of the Redeemer was the first church in the city to embrace the LGBTQ community, and they published an article advocating for same-sex marriage rights in 1998. Zoology, mineralogy, and geology. And then they came together to form the Royal Ontario Museum. You can see the Brom in front of us. It has this big metal and glass piece on the front, and that is the Michael Lee Chin crystal. When the crystal was added in 2007, it cost $270 million, and the original plan was for this to be all glass. This is a museum, so that was a terrible idea. The glass would let light in, and the light would have damaged the artifacts, so they had to cover 75% of the building in aluminum to help deal with this problem. On the left, this building used to be McMaster University, but now it is home to the Royal Conservatory of Music. People who have attended the Royal Conservatory have been Shania Twain, Sarah McLachlan, Ryan Reynolds, and many others. They shut down the whole street that we're on, and they had a party. Unfortunately for them, the game they played after that, they lost 36-0. On our left, we're driving past the Battleship Museum. The Battleship Museum was designed by Raymond Moriyama to look like a shoebox with a lid opening and the entrance a high heel. Raymond Moriyama also designed the Toronto Reference Library that we saw earlier, and the Battleship Museum is exactly what it sounds like. It is a shoe museum. Inside, you can find lots of shoes and shoe-related artifacts from all over the world and different time periods as well. For his wife. So he purchased 25 empty lots of land in 1904, and they began construction in 1911. This man was Sir Henry Pellet, his wife Lady Mary Dodgson, and their house in Casa Loma. They began construction on the house in 1911. They stopped construction before the house was finished in 1914 because they ran into some financial trouble. At that time, if you wanted to purchase a house in this neighborhood, you could purchase one for about $2,500. The original budget of Casa Loma was $250,000. So, big budget for a house. But because of the architect E.J. Lennox, they ended up going over that original budget. Instead of being $250,000 like they planned, Sir Henry Pellet ended up paying $3.5 million before they decided to install. Today, with inflation, that $3.5 million is worth about $76 million.
This one saves me.
In front of us on the left, coming up behind those trees, you should be able to see one of the towers of Castle Loma. The tower with the pointed red roof is the Scottish Tower. The other tower is the Norman Tower. If you can't see it from here, that's totally fine. We are going to keep driving forward. Castle Loma has 2 towers. It has 98 rooms, 30 bathrooms, 25 fireplaces, 59 telephones. It has secret passageways, an underground tunnel, and there are parts of the building that are unfinished, like the unfinished swimming pool, the unfinished bowling alley. And Castle Loma is a museum if you would like to go. It's about $40 ticket admission for adults. They have a 1-hour self-guided tour that you can take. That's something that you listen to. It tells you about the history of the building and the things inside. And then you can walk yourself around the museum that way. We're going to head into this wall on the right. It is made of stone from Lake Ontario. Sir Henry Pellet asked the people of Toronto to bring him a stone from the lake, and in exchange he would give them $1. There is one white stone on the wall of Castle Loma. You'll see it on the right at the end of the wall. That one white stone was brought up from a little boy in Cabbagetown whose family needed the money to help keep their financial trouble. So we brought the big white stone from their garden up to the builders. So we're going to see it on the right. And on our left, we're driving past, or on our right, we're driving past UTS. UTS is the University of Toronto Schools. It's a prestigious private school for grades 7 to 12. It has a 25% acceptance rate, so it's pretty hard to get into. But should a student be accepted to and graduate from UTS, it is said that they have a 98% chance to get into whatever post-secondary they want, including Ivy League universities. On our right, we're driving past the Battleship Museum. The Battleship Museum has Elton John's platform boots, Elvis Presley's loafers, Queen Victoria's slippers, and many other shoes and shoe-related artifacts. Our next stop is stop 10. Would anyone like to get off for 10 for the wrong? Or just for stop 10? So, okay. Nobody wants to get off for stop 10. Drive past the ROM. Again, the ROM at any point only has about 5% of its collection of artifacts on display. The other 95% are hidden in a secret vault somewhere under Ontario. So when we drive forward, we're going to drive under... up. So nobody up here wants to get off for stop 10. It costs $270 million. It is now the main entrance for the ROM. The original main entrance of the ROM we will drive past soon. You'll see it here on our right, and these stairs were renovated in the last couple of years. They are now heated, so that in the winter when we have all of our snow and our ice, we can heat those stairs and melt all the ice and the snow. In front of us on the right, we're driving past U of T, the University of Toronto. This is one of their 3 campuses. They have this campus, they have one in Scarborough, and one in Mississauga. This campus, some of the older buildings with a little be at the campus can disturb the students studying. So if you've seen a Harvard in a Hollywood movie, you've probably seen the University of Toronto. But on top of that, 25% of Hollywood movies are filmed in the city of Toronto. So that's a huge percent. 25% is makes us actually the city with the 3rd largest film industry. So that's after. So on our left we have Police Park. Police Park is named after Queen Victoria, and inside you can find a tree dedicated to each province in Canada. Queen Victoria was never able to come to this park, but when it was open, she did send her son to attend the opening. So watch out on the left for some of these tree branches. Some of them get a little bit close. And then is Canada's 4th Parliament building. This is where our provincial government works, so our Premier works here. And this side of the building that we're driving past actually burnt down and had to be redone by a separate architect. That architect was E.J. Lennox, who was also the architect for Castle Loma. There is a law that you cannot build a skyscraper behind this building to block the skyline. So if you're on top of the bus and you turn around and look out the back and look behind us now, you'll see that building. We're now heading down our hospital alley. This is part of our health district. This is where we have a lot of the hospitals and medical buildings in downtown Toronto. On our right, we're starting with our Princess Margaret Cancer Research Center. This is the #1 cancer research center in the country. Okay, watch it for branches. Watch it on. Keep your hands down. Keep your hands down. Nope. Keep your hands inside the bus. Keep them down and inside the bus. On the left, we have Toronto General Hospital. Toronto General Hospital is where they first administered insulin after it was created by the University of Toronto, and where we had the first successful single and double lung transplants. On the right, we have Mount Sinai Hospital. Mount Sinai was started here, or was actually started at the Yellow Brick Chanel building from Yorkville, and this is where they are today. And this on the left is Sick Kids. Sick Kids is the second largest pediatric hospital in the country. On the right, we have the Toronto Rehab University Center. That's the #1 rehab research center in the world, and that is for physical rehabilitation. There are more medical buildings and hospital buildings kind of in and around this area. The way that they're all connected is underground through tunnels. There are tunnels underground connecting these buildings so that if they need to move patients, doctors, equipment, whatever they might need between the buildings, they have that accessibility. Even when the street that we just drove on is blocked off by cars or construction or even a protest. Just watch out for the tree branch in front of us. College in the name, but it is a tree branching university. And if you look up on the right, you'll see the Sharp Center. It's that white and black building with these colorful sticks coming to the ground. Those sticks are supporting the entire weight of that building up there, so that is also a load-bearing building, so if you want to put more weight on top of it, you could. In front of us, we have the CN Tower. At the top of the antenna, the CN Tower sways in the wind about a meter. And the little bubble, or the sky pod coming down, the CN Tower sways about half a meter. And the big bubble, or the main observatory deck, the CN Tower sways about 9 inches. So sometimes that's scary. Sometimes people decide they don't want to go to the CN Tower. The buildings have to sway in the wind, especially when they're that big. Otherwise, the wind would hit them and they would break and they would fall down. So we are very glad the CN Tower does sway in the wind. That being said, if you do go up the CN Tower elevator on a windy day, on a regular day, the elevator takes only about 58 seconds to go up. But on a windy day, because the building is swaying in the wind, it can take up to 2 minutes. And you will often hear or feel the elevator scratch against the sides of the tower. It is swaying in the wind. And so on the left, up on the wall, this is called Breaking News. It's an art installation created by the OCAD students. So that is on our Bell Media Studios building here on the left. We are turning and heading into our entertainment district. If you take a look in front of us on the right and up, you'll see this red and black cube. That is part of the Scotiabank Theater. Scotiabank Theater is a movie theater. This is where we had Canada's very first 3D IMAX theater. And then in 2017, we added the very first Canada VR IMAX as well. And then in front of us on the left, we have the ballroom. The ballroom is downtown Toronto's only bowling alley. So if you want to go bowling in downtown Toronto, you can, but you have to come here. The entertainment district, as we know it today, was started sort of accidentally by Ed Mirvish. Ed Mirvish purchased the Royal Alexander Theater that's in this neighborhood to save it from being turned into a parking lot. He then refurbished it and opened it for plays for the public. He invested in local bars and restaurants as well to come to this area, and that is what sort of started the entertainment district as we know it today. And we are now heading towards sort of the heart of our entertainment district. Bell light box. This is sort of one side of the Bell light box. The Bell light box is the current. Can you hear? You can't hear? Okay, I'm coming. Okay. Can you hear if I stand here? Okay, so you can't hear, you couldn't hear before? Okay. So in front of us on the left, we have this building with the black windows and the red around them. That's part of our CBC building. CBC is one of our news stations, both TV and radio. And this is where we filmed things. So we filmed Deal or No Deal and Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The Canadian versions were filmed in the CBC building. And the red is actually rubber, and that is to help insulate the building for the sound. They don't want to hear us or the ambulances or the construction when they're filming inside, so the rubber is to insulate that for the sound. Our next stop is stop 14. That is our CN Tower North stop. Would anyone like to get off at stop 14? Yes? Okay, so just stay seated until we get there. Get to stop 1. Yeah. Maybe an hour 20. So in front of us, you can see the Rogers Center, the Sky Dome, as it was called when it was built. The Rogers Center is where our Blue Jays play, the Blue Jays being our baseball team. Well, this is our north building. We also have a south building. They are connected by a walkway. In case the convention wants to take out both buildings, they can. And that connects to the convention center on our right in front. I won't speak under the bridge because then. The CN Tower is built in 1976. It is 1,850 feet tall, or 553 meters tall. Took 40 months of construction and $63 million to build. Is it the tallest tower in the world? Do we have that world record? No, we do not. We lost our world record title in 2010 to the Burj Khalifa in Dubai when that was completed. But the CN Tower has another world record. We have the world's highest wine cellar. On our right, we have Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. Ripley's Aquarium has Canada's longest underwater viewing tunnel. They have a little conveyor belt that takes you through that tunnel. Our next stop is stop 16. If anyone would like to get off stop 16 for the aquarium or the tower or this area, just please let me know. Yes? Okay. We do a stop for 16. Just stay seated until we get there. The Rogers Center, when it was the Sky Dome, it started to rain, and everyone inside got soaking wet. So we are going to stop there, so just stay seated until we get to the stop. So once we get to the stop, if you want to exit for the boat tour, just please exit the bus.
Is the bodies of water within the jurisdiction of the City of Toronto. We ask that in the unlikely event of an emergency, everyone remain calm and listen to the instructions of the crew.
has a B on the back of your head.
Over there.
This is a lot shallower, so I'll talk about it.
It's a lot
Oh,
shallow.
you mean to retrieve the phone? No, that's not. The phone is good.
Now this part of the Inner Harbor, I just had a question about it. It is much shallower. It's only 40 feet or 12 meters deep. If you know anything about our Canadian winters, it gets very cold here. When that happens, the harbor freezes over, its surface that is. And we have very special icebreaker boats that help to break the ice, allowing island residents to move to and from their homes or to the mainland all year round. I'll talk about the island residents a little bit later, but I'm sure you're noticing on the right-hand side here, there's these white buoys floating in the water, and they say "keep out." It's a little helicopter taking off. But as we officially make our way towards the western channel of the islands here, our first point of contact will be Hanlon's Point. Hanlon's Point is named after the Hanlon family. They were a very well-known family in Toronto in the late 19th century, hundreds. One of the city ferries just leaving Hanlon's Point on your right-hand side here. So like I said, the city ferries go all year round. And I'll try to point out where you could access the ferry terminal on our way back to the dock. But now that we're, as I said, in the lagoons and channels here, you can see it's not one big chunk of an island, but several smaller series of islands. Does anyone know how many there are in total? How many Toronto islands there are? Is it 14 islands? Now, they were originally a series of moving sandbars connected to the Scarborough Bluffs. It's long. Now, Lake Ontario currents helped to move those sandbars westward, and through a series of very aggressive storms that worked to erode the land, completely separated the islands from the mainland, and so you see what you see here today is a series of 14 smaller islands. I want you to observe closely as well the different...